Stephen. Thank you for coming out, sharing your story with us. You were to do an exhibition, by the way. A lot of people would be really interested in seeing that. So we'll just do
I'm working on
it. My question is, well, you spoke about in Hungary, growing up surrounded by Jewish people that were not observant. So I wondered, what do you think it means to be Jewish? Do you think it is a hereditary thing, a cultural thing, a religious thing, or a mixture? What is your opinion on what it means to be Jewish?
Gosh, this is such a difficult question. And I had different attitude towards it at different times. There was a famous aesthete scientist of Jewish origin, whose name always escapes me, who wrote a number of books on perception and so on, quite well known academic, and of Jewish origin. And somebody was compiling a publication about prominent Jews and approached him to contribute. And his answer was, "What makes you think I am Jewish?" And he said, well, it's well known, etc., etc. "Why do you prefer Hitler's definition to mine?" What that meant was that if you refuse racial categorization, then it is left to free choice. And if you were brought up, like I was, in Hungarian culture, for example, and my cultural heroes, particularly in poetry, were some genius Hungarian poets who are untranslatable, but identified with and admired, etc., and had no Jewish upbringing. I sometimes thought, well, it is a racist approach to then consider me Jewish. That was my approach post-war. And in fact, the communist regime, and I have to mention that the leading members of the Politburo were all Jewish, had actually banned the word Jewish in Hungary. To say to somebody you are Jewish was punishable by imprisonment, because it was a racist category. It was regarded as. You could have Jewish religion. Religion, they said, was everybody's private affair. But to call somebody by racial origin was a crime. It was racist. Now, I kind of subscribed to that for a long period. And it was later that I realized that there was something wrong with that, which was that denied the solidarity with the victims of my own family, who regarded themselves Jewish without question. So it is therefore a complicated thing. I reject the racist categorization, and I definitely feel myself culturally Hungarian, but I do have now, on solidarity grounds, re-accept, if you like, the Jewishness of it as well. It's not a clear-cut answer, I suppose, but this is life, it's complicated.
Take one last question. 2 last questions. Are you okay to take a couple more questions?
Yeah.
Oh, no. evening. Where should I be?
Out here.
Here?
Bring it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening. I think we're very grateful to have you. Very grateful to have you.
Thank you.
Yes. Very interested in the book you're going to write and the exhibition
Yes.
Wesley's going to arrange with you.
Yes.
For me, I heard all the questions and they're all so relevant, but I'm in another place right now, to tell you the truth. That man over there that's killing all them people. I mean, come on, there's a ceasefire, kill 400 and more people.
It's not a ceasefire.
Do you know what I'm saying? And how do you see that progressing? Because your history, what went on with the Jews, my history, what went on with the black people, we are here now to watch that it's people at the end of the day. The generation that's coming, and those that are not going to come because they're killing the people for the generations to come. It's like the war that was here when they fought the war. Look, all those young men, a whole generation of, we will never know how the history should have gone. Why can't we learn the lesson that, you know, like mothers, you have your children. It's like the state is like we are having fodder for some madman somewhere to decide this is what I believe and I'm going to drop bombs about and trash whatever. We're calling it politics. Really what I'm saying is us, the ordinary, simple people, we are the people of the earth. How are we going to, or how do you see, or how do you advise that we go forward? Look at all our people who's standing up out there, including yourself. How and what can we do to progress this forward? Thank you.
Like for everybody, this is a very frustrating, painful experience day to day. And there is always a feeling that whatever we do is not enough. Haim Rashid, I mentioned earlier, in one of his talks, and he does a great deal. And he ended one of his talks saying, but at the end of the day, I look in the mirror and say, I haven't saved a single Palestinian life after all this activism. Actually, Tony Greenstein stood up and said, I don't quite agree. Because indirectly we do exert influence on the powers that be. And I think one answer is ever increasing numbers. So that they are confronted with the huge divide that does exist between official policy and popular feeling and popular revulsion at what's going on. And I think this, and again I repeat, if they begin to realize that the divide is growing and it will have sooner or later very serious electoral implications as well, then the sheer survival instinct will kick in. And the Labour Party is not too far from that, I think, that they realize that the growth of independent candidates and oppositional candidates and people who leave the party in disgust towards the Greens or wherever, it's going to be a serious problem at the next election. So that's one way. I think the other is creating a new left party, which I mentioned, which is difficult. But there are all kinds of movements which will form coalitions and merge, hopefully, into a party eventually. And that is hopeful. Beyond that, I think we ought to protest at and exert as much pressure as we can on mass media. The mass media is complicit totally, and in fact is making it possible for all this to happen. And whatever we can do to undermine the position of the main media, mass media, with alternatives, support the alternatives, and try and break through to mainstream media whenever we can, in any way we can.
One more question.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I'm Palestinian. We've heard from older family members. There was groups of Palestinians who were very excited. Groups of Palestinians who were very excited that there would be a migration from Europe. It's nice when different people of different cultures get to live together. And we also heard that there were Zionists at the time who wanted a collaborative state. They wanted to live amongst Palestinians peacefully and everybody build a great country together. Did you ever know any of those Zionists?
Yes, I do. I now have a number of comrades in Palestine solidarity movement as well as in Stop the War movement who are active and keen, enthusiastic supporters of Palestine who did start in their life journey as brought up as Zionists within their families and slowly realized reality and turned against it. I think, yes, that there are such people, many. And I think that following the Holocaust, the idea for some of the initial migrants to Palestine that they would go to a place of freedom and start peaceful life, liberated life, and establish a local culture, etc. It's understandable. But I think that comes a point in their lives when this sort of optimism and enthusiasm must have met with reality. They could not, for years on, shut their eyes to what was happening to the Palestinian people. And so it is understandable that it started like that, but it's not excusable to continue like that after seeing the reality. And I had a personal experience which also relates to this. When I first visited my relatives in Haifa, I signed up to a trip to a visit to Jerusalem. And that was a group put together on a commercial basis, all kinds of people. And there was an elderly lady from New York, part of the group. And when she saw a young Jewish soldier with his arms sort of standing about, she broke down crying, saying that I live to the day when I see a Jewish soldier. And this was a genuine emotion. And you can understand that was a reaction still to maybe his family's experience of pogroms. And it was a kind of moment of liberation for her. That's understandable and excusable. But what wouldn't be, if she had stayed on and saw what was happening to the Palestinian people, she couldn't just stay with that emotion. That's a difference, I think. It's okay as a starting point and understandable, but not on any kind of extended basis.
It's a great task for us to try and finally make this separation between Judaism and Zionism in the public understanding, and it seems no matter how much we explain it, you know, the media, the police, the politicians just perhaps feign or sometimes genuinely don't understand. And you know, I guess we've touched on it a little bit with the cats and stuff, but you know, what are the prospects of really putting it firmly as something that is, you know, a fascistic ideology and has a lineage and history of collaboration with Nazism and is in opposition to humanistic Jewish traditions, and what is the strategy for us to do that? How can we make that stick and finally make that separation?
I think quite simply we just have to be brave and swim against the tide on that issue. I think the trouble is that people are intimidated because of repercussions on jobs and standing here and there. And I think the moral issues are so strong that people have to risk more than they do and speak up and deny these lies and false conflations. And I was disgusted, for example, that near the 2019 general election, the chief rabbi came out saying, well, it's not my place to enter into politics, and then entered into politics and declared Jeremy Corbyn an existential danger to Jews, etc. And there was no pushback. I think that they should have been picked up, not caring about whether he's chief rabbi or not, explain his background, which was colonial settler background, explain his right-wing politics and his complete error in crossing into politics, and crossing into politics with smears and lies. Nobody said a word, and he was allowed to remain an august figure, and I think that was terrible. This should not repeat. In the US, there are more people who are bravely, like Bernie Sanders, would speak up. And unfortunately, we didn't have that. And I think that is one of the weaknesses of the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn, who I admire greatly otherwise. But I think he was put upon by his immediate environment, and he should have spoken out more and defended people more who were accused of falsely accused of anti-Semitism, like Ken Livingstone, for example, and others.
Yeah.
And Tony Greenstein will say, and I was the first.
Hey, I do actually just want to ask one question.
Sure.
I think, you know, we've all suffered this awful disappointment of the near total collapse of the ceasefire and the horror of yesterday, you know, with the caveat that we know it wasn't ever a ceasefire. But we also see finally the Arabs came together, the Arab countries, to create a plan, a very comprehensive plan for the reconstruction of Gaza. We know that Saudi, for example, and others are refusing to continue with any normalization discussions until Israel accepts recognizes the state of Palestine. Where do you see this going? Do you believe that a political solution is actually more within reach than it might seem, or not?
Well, I think that the initiative of the Arab states is a serious breakthrough, and actually, who decides about ceasefire and further development? The U.S. And it's prevailing on Trump to see sense. I mean, his plan of the Gaza Riviera is crazy, with the removal of, and it's unworkable. And slowly he will be explained that it is totally unworkable, and it's not going to happen. So if that isn't going to happen, what will? There's a great deal of opinion that says that Trump has only one ally and interest, which is himself, and he is apparently after a Nobel Peace Prize. And I heard some opinion from, even yesterday, from the director or ex-director of the Human Rights Watch, saying that there is some mileage in slowly convincing Donald Trump that the one way towards his Nobel Peace Prize is to accept and back a two-state solution, even if it is a temporary two-state solution. I personally think that ultimately there has to be a one-state solution. But maybe a two-state solution could be a stepping stone. Certainly better than the Riviera that he's dreaming about. And he could prevail over the Israelis very easily by holding the armaments and the money at his will, pretty much. That's if he could be prevailed upon to see alliance with the Arab initiative. I know he rejected it in the first place, but if he could be by his immediate environment gradually convince him that is the only thing that would work, maybe that's a possibility. I can't see anything else at the moment.
Okay, I think we'll draw to a close on that note. Hopefully there's a bit of hope there. I just want to, on behalf of Community Camp of Palestine and everyone here, say a huge thank you for coming and spending so much time sharing your
Thank you for inviting me.
sharing your valuable experiences, your insight, your, I think, uncompromising moral clarity and enormous courage. So thank you very much. And just to say, quick shout out for the camp. Anyone who, please approach, we'll all put our hands up if you'd like to come and spend some time giving some time to the camp. That's the most precious thing you can give. And lastly, please all do show up for Stephen, those who can, 3 o'clock, Charing Cross Police Station, this Friday, 21st of March, where he has been summoned for an interview for his continuing courage and peaceful exercising of his rights to freedom of expression and peaceful
But
assembly.
remain peaceful.
Solidarity with you. We will remain peaceful.
But
Thank you so much.
I thank you again. And can I just say, before people are disappointed, that I am told that when we come out, if we come out, we're bound to come out from that interview, I cannot say anything. If there is a statement, it will come from our solicitor, Weidmans. In fact, I've been trying to suggest that she does prepare something, but it's going to be generalities. We can't comment, even she can't comment on the case. But I cannot say anything, so before there is disappointment that it was the same when Chris Nyman came out, and when Jamal came out, they couldn't say anything.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Yes, okay.